I don't very often ride Sportives, but today I sort of broke the habit and did one. And the reason that I did this one was, first of all, it was local, so easy one to ride. It was only 13 miles away, so I could ride out to it, ride back, no petrol. So it was superb in that respect. And I took the sort of scenic route on the way back and made it 18 miles and cranked the thing up to a 100-mile ride altogether. So it's always nice to do that. So it was partly because of that, to be honest, but also it was cheap. You can probably get the impression from the petrol and the cheap bit that I'm fairly mean. So that helped a lot. It didn't cost an awful lot of money, and there was cake. And the three main reasons, really, to be honest, are the fact that it was organised by a club that I have an awful lot of respect for, VC Revolution. They do a lot to promote cycling in the area, and they're a good, responsible club. Secondly, it was in aid of a charity called Recycle, and Recycle are based at Wormingford. If you've got an old bike in your garage, give it to them. If you're not using it, obviously, if you're going to use it. But if you're not using it and it's just sitting there gathering dust, give it to Recycle. What they do is they renovate bikes, get them back into a roadworthy condition again, and they do it very professionally. They then either sell them in the UK and the money gets put back into the charity, or they send them out to Africa, and there they're used to facilitate transport to people who wouldn't otherwise have access to a decent bike. So it's a win-win, really. Keeps the bike out of landfill, which obviously is a good thing, better than recycling the materials even. And at the same time, it's obviously supporting people who have a need. So it really is a fantastic initiative, one that I think is just amazing. So I was very happy to support them indeed, and to see them, because I'd never actually been there. I'll tell you need to go there just to see the number of bikes they managed to pack into a container. I mean, it's just extraordinary the way they managed to get them together. I used to work in the cycle industry. I've never seen anything like this. So it's worth a visit just for that. But you can get yourself a new bike as well while you're there, or give them an old one. So I was keen to support them. And finally, the event was also supported by Chris Boardman, who supports Recycle, so that was why he was there. And so he spoke both to the whole assembly, and then also had a chat with people as well. So it was really great to have the opportunity to see him. First time I'd seen him for a long time, actually. So so it was good all round. And as far as Chris was concerned, somebody asked him, did you ever ride the Grand Prix of Essex? So this gives me an opportunity to talk about the Grand Prix of Essex. The Grand Prix of Essex was an absolutely brilliant race, which was based in Halstead from the 1960s, actually from the year I was born, 1964, right through until 2000. And when I was a child, it was part of Halstead life. So people just talked about the bike race when I was at school, when it was time for it to happen in the third week of March, and everybody went and watched it. So back in those days, back in the 70s and the 80s, the high street in Halstead was just thick with people, not just cyclists, but just people from the town. This is back in the days when people entertained themselves in the town, so people didn't travel as far in those days, I think it's fair to say. So it was an event that I loved, that I rode a couple of times when I was good enough. And one of the years I rode it, actually, Chris rode it. And somebody said to him, did you ever ride the Grand Prix of Essex? And he said, no, I don't think I ever did. So I did have to correct him on that one. And I've got my evidence actually here. So it's a bit sad, really, this. He actually talked about the fact that he prefers to think about the future than the past. And sadly, I have a drawer with lots of old programmes in it, so I actually still have my Grand Prix of Essex 1990 programme, and here is the page that actually shows Chris having ridden it. You can see I've highlighted his name. So anyway, it was a really, really lovely event, and I enjoyed it a lot. We were lucky with the weather even, which was not always looking that certain through the week. Forecast changed a few times. Anyway, show you what happened. Here we are rolling away from the start, and one of the things that I liked about the event actually is that the organiser encouraged people into smallish groups, which does make the whole thing a lot more manageable and causes a lot less disruption to other road users. I think that's a really good thing. I started off, I think, probably with the second group on the road, but I quite quickly sort of just jumped away from them to go and work my way across the first group, which was mainly made up of VC Revolution riders. So here we are, heading to the top of Wallingford Hill. I don't exactly have much of a reputation as a descending expert, but on this hill you really can't fail to get 55 kilometres an hour, something in that order. It's a really nice fast descent, a fairly straight one, so it's a nice comfortable one, even for me. And this is the village of Bewers, which is on the Essex and Suffolk border, and here we did a left turn to head into Essex and up towards Pedmarsh. This is getting onto my own home turf really here. This is Little Maplestead, and there's a really tight bend up here, and I remember thumping around that years ago in a sort of training race that used to be organised in the area. And then we had a little bit of a mishap here because the course had been changed. Essex County Council resurfaced part of the route literally the day before, and there was quite a lot of loose gravel, which is very, very dangerous for cyclists. It's unpleasant for drivers, obviously, but for cyclists it's pretty lethal. So the course was changed to avoid that, but the message didn't quite get through to everybody. So you can see somebody went off course here, and I think a few others did it as well. They did shout at him, but he didn't hear. And this is the town, you have to get that right, it's not a village, of Clare. There's a fantastic market here on Saturday mornings, but it does mean there's quite a lot of traffic. It's an A road anyway that runs through Clare, and it does get quite busy, so it was a little bit choked on Saturday morning. Just after Clare is the village of Poslingford. This is a village, definitely. There's a long climb going out of Poslingford, and an old boy I used to train with when I first started used to reckon that the top of that climb is the highest point in Suffolk, and he may well be right. It's certainly a good long old hill. I had a little bit of a dig on the hill and got a bit of a gap over the others just to try my legs out. I just love Suffolk for its villages. This is Hartest, which is another really beautiful village with a lovely green and an even lovelier hill. and I decided that I'd have a little bit of a proper dig on this one, and I jumped away from the others, got a big gap, and just thought, well, I might as well keep it going. So I left the others at this point and went for a solo final 30 kilometres or so. Long Melford. By this point I'm completely by myself. This is probably sort of 10 kilometres after I've jumped away, so I'm just sort of time trialling it now really. I'm pushing it a bit harder than I had been earlier on by this stage. Still catching a few riders who were doing the shorter route, or possibly some who made the same mistake and taken the old route through the Strada Bianchi bit, the very gravelly bit. And then this is Stoke-by-Nayland, which is just another of those lovely Suffolk villages with its beautiful church that you can see for miles around because it stands on the side of a hill. And this is Nayland itself, down on the A134. Again, lots of medieval buildings. I think it was this bit of road that inspired the question from someone about the Grand Prix of Essex, and it's a lovely bit of road, but those who know it will know that it's followed by a quite nasty little hill. And this is said climb, so this is my last obstacle for the day, and then it was back to the headquarters for the sort of social bit of the day, which was great. And it was brilliant to hear Chris Boardman speaking. He's been someone who's inspired me really for an awfully long time, for most of my life, whether it was from when I was racing and he was someone who was riding Premier calendars with me, just an awful lot faster than me, on to his 1992 Olympic Pursuit medal, and then his hour record successes, and then following on from that, more recently his cycle campaigning. He's been someone who's really inspired me and someone whose views I very much share. So that was the end of what had been a really, really enjoyable day, and I'll just leave Chris with the last words.
Thanks very much for well, actually, thanks very much. You've had a great day out. It's not really been a hardship today, has it? Brilliant charity though, as you've heard. I've been involved for, we're just trying to work it out, about 8 years. And I think this is just the, without wishing to evangelise, but I suppose this is the kind of place that you do. It's such a wonderful machine that is, as a child, it's your way to extend territory and explore, and then it's how you go and meet girls, and then it's your passion, and then in my case it's my job, and now trying to work on how to use it to solve so many of the biggest problems we have, well, in the world, frankly. You know, decarbonisation, we need cheap transport, transport independence for kids, you know, just you name it, this machine does it, and it's the reason it's been here for 100 years. In the midst of the need to decarbonise, particularly transport, getting people to use these things for short journeys and making sure they feel safe enough to do it is really important. But then after that, what about when it gets to its end of life? Isn't it great that yet again you can step in, take these things from where they've been unloved or no longer needed, and then take them to somewhere where it is literally transport to access work. or to carry things as basic as water and all of that. And so it's a wonderful charity to be involved in. And I've just been through the process today. It's taken me 8 years to get here, but I'm glad I actually did in the end. It's such an impressive setup to see that everything is being reused. And when you get to the very last bit where we can't use this, even that's being recycled, and just been everything stored out the back and ready to go. There's not many activities, vehicles that you can say that you can do that with. And it's why it's been a passion of mine for, well, pretty much my entire adult life now, and will be probably to the end of days. So